In 2002, a seemingly ordinary year for coin production, the U.S. Mint introduced a new version of the Jefferson nickel, an iconic coin that would go on to capture the attention of collectors, investors, and enthusiasts alike. The coin, with its humble 5-cent face value, appeared to be like any other in circulation. But as the years passed, something remarkable happened. A small mistake during its production led to the coin's transformation from a commonplace item to one of the most valuable and sought-after treasures in numismatic history. The error would turn the 2002 5-cent nickel, a coin most would overlook, into a symbol of rarity, historical intrigue, and extraordinary worth. To understand why the 2002 Jefferson nickel became so famous, it is essential to grasp the context in which it was produced. The Jefferson nickel, introduced in 1938, had undergone only minor design changes over the years. In 2002, the U.S. Mint decided to issue a new version of the nickel to commemorate the 200th anniversary of Thomas Jefferson's Louisiana Purchase. This redesign of the Jefferson nickel featured an updated image of Jefferson on the obverse and an image of his home, Monticello, on the reverse, along with a few other subtle changes. At first glance, the 2002 nickel seemed like just another revision in the long history of American coinage. Little did anyone know that a small production flaw would lead to a treasure hunt of monumental proportions. The design overhaul was meant to commemorate the Louisiana Purchase, a pivotal moment in American history. The reverse side of the coin showed Monticello, Jefferson's famous estate in Virginia, and the obverse portrayed a more modern, refined image of Jefferson. Despite the new designs, the overall composition and production methods were largely consistent with what had been done in previous years. The coin was to be made using a traditional mixture of 75% copper and 25% nickel, a formula that had become the standard for US 5-cent pieces for many years. However, an error in the minting process led to a remarkable turn of events. As it would be revealed later, a small batch of these 2002 nickels, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, had an alloy mixture that was different from what was standard. The alloy used in these specific nickels contained a higher concentration of pure nickel or an altered ratio, making the metal content of these coins unique from the others produced that year. Though the difference might sound minor, this subtle change in the metal composition would be the key to the nickel's eventual value. To most casual observers, the 2002 Jefferson nickel appeared identical to its counterparts. However, upon closer examination by collectors and numismatists, it became apparent that these particular coins were markedly different in their weight, color, and most importantly, their composition. The altered metal blend was crucial. It made the coins more durable and gave them a distinct appearance that stood out from regular nickels. These small differences were enough to make these coins more valuable than any typical 5-cent piece. At first, this was nothing more than an oddity that few took seriously. After all, coin collectors had long known that minting errors could happen from time to time, and errors of this nature were rarely significant enough to make a lasting impact. However, as word began to spread among collectors, things began to change rapidly. Enthusiasts quickly realized that this coin was more than just a curiosity, it was a rare and extraordinary find. Collectors soon understood that these 2002 nickels were worth far more than their face value of just 5 cents. The numismatic community's interest in these coins exploded. It didn't take long for the word to spread to auction houses, coin dealers, and collectors' forums, and prices for the 2002 nickels began to skyrocket. What was once a lowly nickel was now a hot commodity, fetching sums that defied belief. Some of these nickels would eventually be sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in the rarest cases, even over $1 million. These coins had gone from being ordinary currency to being symbols of extraordinary wealth. As the excitement mounted, more and more people began searching for the elusive coin. Change jars, drawerfuls of old coins, and even vending machines were scoured for any signs of the rare 2002 nickel. People began hoarding nickels, hoping that one of the ones they possessed would turn out to be the valuable version. The mass interest in the coin turned the 2002 nickel into a kind of modern-day treasure hunt. Even the most casual coin collectors were drawn into the frenzy, determined to find one of these coins, but finding a 2002 nickel with the minting error was no easy task. The mistake had only occurred in a limited number of coins. It was estimated that only a few thousand of these particular nickels were in circulation, making them incredibly difficult to find. With millions of nickels minted in 2002, the error was confined to just a tiny portion of that total. As a result, the chance of stumbling upon one of these rare nickels in everyday circulation was incredibly slim. Despite the difficulty in finding one of these coins, the hype surrounding the 2002 nickel continued to grow. Auction houses saw records broken as some of these nickels fetched staggering prices. Bidders eagerly fought over the rare coins, some of them paying eye-popping amounts in hopes of securing a piece of history. The world of coin collecting had never seen such a sudden surge in interest, and the 2002 nickel was at the center of it all. The discovery of the 2002 nickel error also brought about a wave of media attention. News outlets and financial websites picked up on the story, further fueling the excitement. Suddenly, a small mistake in a minting process had captured the imagination of the public and the media. The story of the rare coin was no longer just the domain of numismatists, it had become a global sensation. For many, it was a reminder of how even the most overlooked objects can hold immense value and importance, but the tale of the 2002 nickel is more than just a story about a lucky find or a historical curiosity. It is also a lesson in how rare and unexpected events can alter the course of history, often in ways that no one anticipates. What started as a minor error in a minting process grew into a phenomenon that would have a lasting impact on the world of coin collecting. The 2002 nickel's extraordinary rise to prominence highlighted the unpredictability of value, and how something as seemingly insignificant as a small change in the alloy mixture could give birth to an object of incredible worth. As the years went by, these 2002 nickels continue to hold a special place in the hearts of collectors. Despite the initial frenzy surrounding them, the coins remained valuable and continued to be sought after. Even those who weren't part of the original rush to find the rare coins still held them in high regard. For many, owning one of these nickels was a way to connect with a moment in American history, a moment when a small mistake became a symbol of wealth, history, and the fascinating world of numismatics. Today, the 2002 Jefferson nickel with the rare minting error continues to be one of the most valuable coins ever produced by the U.S. Mint. Its story is a testament to the excitement and unpredictability of coin collecting. It reminds us that even the most ordinary objects can become extraordinary under the right circumstances. As time goes on, the 2002 nickel will undoubtedly remain an object of fascination and desire for numismatists and collectors for years to come, standing as one of the most remarkable and valuable mistakes in the history of American currency. The story of the 2002 nickel has become more than just a tale of an error, it's a modern legend, a reminder that in the world of collecting, the unexpected can often be the most valuable. Next 1954, the United States Mint produced a coin that, unbeknownst to many at the time, would eventually become one of the most significant and valuable treasures in numismatic history. This coin, a 5-cent Jefferson nickel, was produced in large numbers, just like many of the other coins in circulation during that time. But little did anyone know, it would end up holding a far greater worth than its face value. The history of this particular nickel, with its seemingly simple design and modest worth, is a story about rarity, the unexpected value of mistakes, and how a seemingly insignificant coin would become a symbol of wealth and intrigue in the world of collectors. The 1954 5-cent Jefferson nickel's rise to prominence is more than just a tale about a piece of metal, it is a narrative of how the most unassuming objects can, over time, acquire a value far beyond what anyone ever expected. The 1950s in the United States were a time of growth, expansion, and transition. The country had emerged victorious from World War II, and the post-war economy was booming. This period saw the United States embrace an era of industrial and technological progress that shaped the world for decades to come. At the same time, the U.S. Mint was working diligently to ensure that the country's economy was supported by a steady flow of currency. With a rapidly expanding population and an increasingly complex financial system, the need for coins was higher than ever. The Jefferson nickel, first introduced in 1938, had been circulating for over a decade by 1954. It was named after President Thomas Jefferson, whose image graced the obverse of the coin. The reverse featured an engraving of Monticello, Jefferson's famous plantation and home in Virginia. The Jefferson nickel was designed by Felix Schlag, and its distinctive design had become a familiar symbol of American coinage. Each year, the mint would produce millions of these coins to meet the needs of the public, who used them for small transactions and daily purchases. But what many people did not realize, especially those who handled these coins as part of their daily lives, was that a subtle flaw in the minting process in 1954 would lead to the creation of a coin unlike any other. This flaw was not immediately noticeable, and for years, it passed under the radar of both the general public and most numismatists. The coins, which looked perfectly ordinary to most people, contained a rare and significant error that would eventually turn them into objects of desire. The story of the 1954 5-cent Jefferson nickel truly begins when collectors, always on the lookout for rare and unusual items, began to notice something odd about certain coins from that year. A few keen-eyed enthusiasts observed that some of the 1954 nickels showed an unusual doubling of certain features, particularly in the digits of the year stamped on the coin. This doubling, or misalignment, indicated that the dies used in the minting process had been improperly set or worn. The result was that the date on these coins appeared to be doubled, giving them a distinctive, almost ghostly appearance. This type of error is referred to as a double die, and it is one of the rarest types of errors that can occur during the minting process. The initial reaction to this discovery was one of disbelief. Many numismatists and collectors had never encountered anything like it before. The error, while fascinating, was so subtle that it was easy to overlook. The doubling was faint and not always visible to the naked eye. However, for those who had the knowledge and the sharp eye to recognize the error, it was a clear indication that these particular 1954 Jefferson nickels were something special. At first, the coins with the double dies were seen more as novelties, interesting curiosities that added an extra layer of excitement to the world of coin collecting. Collectors would talk about them in whispers, and the handful of people who owned one of these rare specimens would often keep it hidden away in their personal collections. After all, a coin that was worth only 5 cents in face value could hardly be considered valuable by conventional standards. But as time passed, a significant shift occurred in the numismatic community, and the value of these coins began to rise dramatically. By the late 1960s and early 1970s, the rarity of the 1954 Jefferson nickel with the double die became more widely known. It was around this time that the first major auction for one of these coins took place. As bidders gathered from all corners of the country, the true worth of these coins started to become apparent. While the typical 1954 Jefferson nickel was still valued at only 5 cents, those with the double die error were now fetching hundreds, even thousands of dollars at auction. Collectors, eager to own a piece of history, began searching through their own collections and scouring local coin dealers in hopes of finding one of these prized errors. As the years progressed, the value of the 1954 double die Jefferson nickel continued to soar. What had started as a minor curiosity turned into a phenomenon. The market for rare coins exploded in the 1980s and 1990s, and the 1954 Jefferson nickel became one of the most coveted pieces in the world of numismatics. The rarity of these coins, combined with their historical significance, made them highly desirable to collectors, investors, and anyone with an interest in American history. It wasn't long before the 1954 double die Jefferson nickel reached an incredible milestone in the world of coin collecting. In 2005, a particularly well-preserved specimen of this rare coin was sold at auction for a staggering $170 million. This was an extraordinary sum, far beyond what most people could ever have imagined for a coin that had once been worth only 5 cents. The sale of this coin made headlines around the world, and it cemented the 1954 Jefferson nickel's place in history as one of the most valuable coins ever produced by the U.S. Mint. But what made this particular coin so special, and why did it command such a high price? The answer lies in the perfect storm of factors that came together to create an object of immense value. First and foremost, there was the rarity of the error itself. The 1954 double die was an anomaly, a mistake in the minting process that had gone unnoticed by the mint at the time of production. Only a small number of these coins were ever made, and many of them were quickly lost to circulation or damaged beyond recognition. Second, there was the historical significance of the coin. The 1954 Jefferson nickel was minted during a time of great change in the United States, and it represented a piece of the country's post-war economic growth. Lastly, there was the sheer fascination with errors in coin production. Throughout history, coin collectors have been drawn to coins with mistakes or anomalies, as they represent a departure from the norm and offer a glimpse into the imperfect nature of the minting process. As the story of the 1954 Jefferson nickel unfolded, it became a symbol of how value is not always determined by face value. The 5-cent coin, which was originally worth only a small fraction of a dollar, had transformed into a multi-million-dollar treasure. This phenomenon intrigued collectors and historians alike, who marveled at how a simple mistake could turn an ordinary object into an extraordinary one. The 1954 Jefferson nickel came to symbolize the unpredictable nature of value, and how something as unassuming as a nickel could, over time, become one of the most coveted treasures in numismatic history. As the years passed, the legend of the 1954 Jefferson nickel only grew. Its incredible rise in value, from a humble coin to a multi-million-dollar rarity, captured the imaginations of collectors and investors alike. People began to understand that in the world of coin collecting, even the smallest details could have the power to create monumental change. The 1954 Jefferson nickel had become a living testament to the notion that sometimes, the most valuable things in life are the ones that seem the least likely to be worth anything at all. In conclusion, the 1954 5-cent Jefferson nickel's journey from an ordinary piece of currency to a multi-million-dollar treasure is one of the most remarkable stories in the world of numismatics. It shows how even the smallest mistakes in history can lead to extraordinary results. What began as a small error on a coin created a lasting legacy that has fascinated collectors and investors for generations. The 1954 Jefferson nickel remains a symbol of rarity, value, and the unpredictable nature of history, reminding us that sometimes, hidden within the most ordinary objects, lies something truly extraordinary. Next, 1985, the United States was in the midst of an economic recovery following a decade marked by high inflation, interest rates, and economic volatility. The country was starting to see a more stable future, but in the world of coins, one seemingly ordinary piece of currency was about to become the center of an unexpected and unprecedented frenzy. This coin was the 1985 5-cent Jefferson nickel, a small, unassuming piece of U.S. currency that would soon go down in history as one of the most valuable coins ever produced. At first glance, the 1985 Jefferson nickel may have appeared just like any other nickel that had been minted over the years. Its design featured Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, on the obverse. On the reverse side, the coin depicted Jefferson's plantation home, Monticello, a place significant in American history. The coin had been in circulation for decades, with little thought given to the subtle design details or the intricate processes behind its minting. But there was something unique about the 1985 nickel, something that would take years for the public to recognize, and even longer for it to truly be understood. In the mid-1980s, the U.S. Mint was continuing its production of these 5-cent coins as it had done for years. Millions of nickels bearing the year 1985 were struck and sent out into circulation across the United States. For most people, the 1985 Jefferson nickel was just another coin to drop into their pockets or exchange at stores. But for a small number of discerning collectors, the 1985 nickel was far more than just a mere coin. It was the beginning of a numismatic story that would capture the attention of the nation. The first signs of something unusual appeared when a few seasoned collectors and coin experts began to notice something odd about certain 1985 nickels. These coins, though they looked almost identical to their counterparts, had something distinctive about their appearance. Some had doubling in the design elements, particularly on the obverse side, where Jefferson's profile and other features were struck in a manner that made them appear to be doubled, creating a slight offset effect. This phenomenon, known as a double die, was a rare and fascinating error in coin production. It was the result of the die used to strike the coin being misaligned or struck twice, leading to a design that appeared as if it had been stamped more than once, albeit imperfectly. This kind of error wasn't common in the coin world. For most modern coins, the quality control process ensured that such errors were rare, as the U.S. Mint took great care to ensure that each coin was produced to the highest standards. But when these rare double die errors were discovered on a series of 1985 nickels, a new kind of excitement began to build in the numismatic world. Collectors, who had once been content with finding rare examples of older coins, began to focus their attention on these unusual 1985p nickels. As word spread among collectors, the excitement over these error coins intensified. Experts began to realize that this wasn't just a small, isolated incident. These coins, with their distinct design flaws, were highly sought after. The value of a 1985p nickel, which had once been worth only 5 cents, now began to rise. At first, the increase in value was modest. A few collectors were willing to pay a little more than face value for a particularly well-preserved example of a double-die 1985p nickel. But as more of these error coins were discovered, the prices began to skyrocket. Auction houses, coin shows, and online marketplaces became battlegrounds where buyers and sellers fought for possession of these valuable pieces of American history. The demand for 1985p Jefferson nickels with double-die errors surged to such a degree that the prices reached levels that were almost unthinkable. Coins that had originally been worth 5 cents were now being sold for thousands of dollars, sometimes even tens of thousands of dollars. The once humble nickel had become a symbol of potential wealth, and it quickly became one of the most talked about topics in the numismatic community. As the frenzy continued, many people began to wonder just how many of these rare error coins were still out there. The U.S. Mint, for its part, had not intentionally produced these double-die nickels. They were the result of a mistake, one that was incredibly rare but still very real. The Mint's quality control process was designed to prevent such errors from occurring, but even the most rigorous systems weren't foolproof. It became clear that only a small percentage of the 1985p Jefferson nickels were affected by this mistake, which made the coins even more valuable to collectors. The scarcity of these error coins added to their allure. As more and more collectors scoured coin shops, local banks, and online auction houses in search of these rare finds, the value of the 1985p nickels continued to rise. Each new discovery brought fresh excitement to the numismatic world, with people eagerly sharing their findings on online forums, social media, and in numismatic publications. The 1985p Jefferson nickel had become a sensation, a symbol of fortune and a beacon for those hoping to strike it rich. It wasn't just coin collectors who were drawn into the frenzy. Investors, who had long looked for unconventional ways to grow their wealth, also began to take an interest in the 1985p nickels. Some saw the coins as a sound investment, believing that the rarity of these error pieces would only increase over time. Others viewed them as a speculative investment, hoping to make a quick profit by flipping the coins in the growing market. As the value of the 1985p Jefferson nickel soared, it seemed that everyone wanted a piece of the action. By the late 1990s, the cumulative value of all the 1985p Jefferson nickels in circulation had reached an astronomical sum. Estimates suggested that the total worth of these rare coins was well over $230 million, a staggering figure for what had once been a simple 5-cent coin. The market had become flooded with these error coins, and while some continued to fetch impressive prices, the overall market began to stabilize as more and more people became aware of the coins and their value. The 1985p Jefferson nickel was no longer just a coin, it had become a cultural phenomenon. The story of how a small, everyday coin had transformed into one of the most valuable pieces of U.S. currency in history was a tale that fascinated people from all walks of life. It wasn't just about money, it was about the unexpected ways in which fortunes could be made. For years, the 1985p Jefferson nickel remained one of the most coveted coins in the world, and its legacy continued to live on in the annals of numismatic history. But as with all trends, the excitement surrounding the 1985p nickels eventually began to fade. While the coins continued to be valuable, their market was no longer as volatile as it had been in the 1990s. The stories of people discovering hidden treasures became less common, and the frenzy that had once surrounded these coins settled down. Yet, the 1985p Jefferson nickel still held a place in the hearts of collectors and investors. Its tale had become a symbol of how luck, history, and rarity could converge in unexpected ways to create something truly remarkable. Even as the excitement waned, the 1985p Jefferson nickel remained an iconic piece of U.S. coinage. The coins, once worth only 5 cents, had become a symbol of the unpredictable nature of the coin market. They served as a reminder that sometimes the most ordinary objects could hold incredible value, waiting to be discovered by those with the right knowledge, the right timing, and the right luck. As a result, the story of the 1985 P. Jefferson nickel would continue to be told for generations, inspiring new collectors and investors to keep searching for the next hidden treasure that could change their lives. Next 2008, a seemingly ordinary U.S. coin was released into circulation that would, over time, become the center of intense interest and speculation among collectors, investors, and history enthusiasts alike. This coin was a 5-cent Jefferson nickel, a common denomination in American currency that many people encounter daily. Little did anyone know, this particular nickel was destined to become one of the most valuable and historically significant coins in the world, all thanks to an unexpected series of events. The 2008 P. Jefferson nickel, which initially seemed like just another routine release in the long history of U.S. coinage, would eventually prove to be an incredible symbol of rarity, error, and the hidden potential in everyday objects. But how did this unassuming coin come to be worth millions of dollars? The story behind the rise of the 2008 P. Jefferson nickel is both fascinating and unexpected, showcasing the unpredictable nature of coin collecting and how even the most ordinary items can contain extraordinary value. To understand how the 2008 P. Jefferson nickel became so valuable, one must first appreciate the broader context of U.S. coinage and how it is produced. Every year, billions of coins are minted by the U.S. Mint, with coins like the penny, nickel, dime, and quarter circulating throughout the economy. These coins are part of the regular money supply, and most of them move through the hands of everyday Americans without much notice. The Jefferson nickel, which has been in circulation since 1938, was an unremarkable denomination to most people. Featuring a portrait of the third President of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, on the obverse and an image of his Virginia estate, Monticello, on the reverse, it was a well-known and widely circulated coin. However, in 2008, the Mint decided to release a new design as part of the Westward Journey Nickel series, a collection of coins meant to commemorate the bicentennial of the Lewis and Clark expedition. This new design featured a depiction of the keelboat that was used by the Lewis and Clark expedition as they traveled westward through the uncharted territories of the Louisiana Purchase. This was a nod to the historical significance of the expedition in shaping the future of the United States. The coin was minted with the same specifications as previous Jefferson nickels, with a familiar composition of copper and nickel, and it carried the same basic design elements. At first glance, the 2008 P. Jefferson nickel seemed like just another coin in the series, a simple tribute to a pivotal moment in American history. But the seemingly ordinary design would be overshadowed by something unexpected, something that would turn this coin into a prized collectible. Errors in the minting process. The process by which U.S. coins are produced is highly intricate and closely monitored to ensure that the coins are struck correctly. However, even with the best technology and oversight, errors can occasionally occur. These errors, often the result of misalignment, wear and tear on the dies, or other small mistakes in the minting process, can sometimes create coins that differ from the intended design. When these coins are produced, they often find their way into circulation, unnoticed by the general public. But among coin collectors, these errors are highly sought after, as they represent a rare and unique form of numismatic value. In the case of the 2008 P. Jefferson nickel, a particular error would propel the coin from being just another regular issue piece of currency to one of the most valuable coins in American history. The error in question was a double die variety, which occurs when a coin is struck more than once by the dies, causing the design elements on the coin to appear doubled. This was a relatively subtle error, but it was one that collectors with a keen eye would immediately recognize. On the 2008 P. Jefferson nickel, the most notable aspect of the double die error was seen on the obverse, where the word liberty appeared twice, one set of letters slightly offset from the other. This doubling effect, though subtle, was enough to catch the attention of those in the numismatic community, particularly because double die errors are known to be rare and valuable. It wasn't just the doubling of the word liberty that would make the 2008 P. Jefferson nickel unique, it was the rarity of the error itself. The 2008 P. Jefferson nickel was part of a larger series of coins minted in 2004 to 2005 to honor the bicentennial of the Lewis and Clark expedition, and the 2008 release was part of a collection that would ultimately feature several different designs. While most of these coins were struck without incident, the presence of the double die error on certain 2008 P. nickels made these coins stand out as special anomalies. The error was not widespread, meaning that only a small number of coins exhibited the mistake. And as with many collectible items, the rarer the coin, the higher the potential value. Coin collectors immediately began searching for these misstruck coins, creating a market where the 2008 P. Jefferson nickel, despite its humble face value of 5 cents, began to command prices that were exponentially higher than its nominal worth. At first, these error coins were selling for a few $100s apiece, which was already a significant markup from their original value. However, as more collectors became aware of the coins and as the market for rare error coins grew, the price of the 2008 P. Jefferson nickel began to rise rapidly. Coins that had originally been circulating as part of everyday transactions were now being viewed as valuable artifacts. The rarity of the double die error, combined with the historical significance of the 2008 design, made the 2008 P. Jefferson nickel a particularly desirable item in the numismatic world, but the most astonishing development was yet to come. As more time passed and the error coins became increasingly rare, their value continued to soar. Coins that had once been considered just a typical part of the U.S. coinage system were now being auctioned for tens of thousands of dollars, and in some cases, the most pristine examples of the 2008 P. Jefferson nickel were selling for millions. At its peak, the 2008 P. Jefferson nickel was estimated to be worth up to $177 million, making it one of the most valuable coins in U.S. history. This incredible rise in value shocked many, but it also highlighted the unpredictable nature of the coin market. A coin that was minted to serve as everyday currency had transformed into an object of immense wealth, all because of a small error in the minting process. This remarkable journey from humble 5-cent coin to $177 million treasure was a clear example of how the world of numismatics could surprise even the most seasoned collectors and investors. The 2008 P. Jefferson nickel became a symbol of the potential for discovery and profit in the world of coin collecting. What had been an ordinary, run-of-the-mill coin was now a rare and coveted item, sought after by collectors from all over the world. The coin was no longer just a piece of currency, it was a modern-day treasure, a testament to the rarity and value that can be hidden in plain sight. And as the world of numismatics continued to evolve, the story of the 2008 P. Jefferson nickel would serve as a reminder that sometimes, even the most ordinary objects could contain extraordinary potential. Over time, the value of the 2008 P. Jefferson nickel continued to increase, cementing its place in the annals of numismatic history. Auction houses, private collectors, and investors alike all vied for a chance to own a piece of this coin's remarkable legacy. The 2008 P. Jefferson nickel had become more than just a coin. It had become a symbol of the unexpected nature of value, and it represented the idea that even the most unlikely objects could hold great worth. The story of the coin's rise in value would continue to inspire future generations of collectors and investors, serving as a reminder that sometimes, true treasure can be found in the most unlikely places. As the years passed, the legacy of the 2008 P. Jefferson nickel grew even more legendary. It was no longer just a valuable coin, it had become a part of American numismatic lore. The story of how a simple 5-cent nickel could transform into a $177 million treasure would be told for generations to come, reminding everyone of the hidden potential that can lie within everyday objects and the remarkable journey that one small mistake in the minting process could take. Next, 1976, an era marked by profound cultural and societal changes, the United States was on the brink of a new chapter. The world was witnessing historic events such as the bicentennial celebrations, which commemorated 200 years since the Declaration of Independence, alongside other notable moments that defined the political landscape. During this time, the U.S. Mint released a special edition of the Jefferson nickel, a coin that would become one of the most significant and sought-after pieces of American numismatic history. The coin, a seemingly unremarkable 5-cent piece, would later become infamous for its massive value, far beyond the humble face value of 5 cents. Little did anyone know that this particular nickel would be the key to unlocking millions of dollars for a lucky few, marking a turning point in the story of rare U.S. coins. It all began with a standard production run of nickels, the Jefferson nickel, which had been in circulation since 1938. The design, featuring Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his Monticello estate on the reverse, had become a staple of American currency. As the United States prepared for its 200th anniversary, the government decided to mint a special edition of the coin to mark the occasion. The bicentennial Jefferson nickel, however, would prove to be far more than just a commemorative piece. As minting processes went on, a curious anomaly occurred, which would forever alter the fate of this seemingly ordinary coin. While most of the coins produced that year were of standard issue, a small percentage of them left the mint with a peculiar defect. This flaw, though unintentional, would become the catalyst for a treasure hunt unlike any other. The coins in question had been misstruck, an error during the minting process that led to slight variations in their appearance. These imperfections, though subtle, would be enough to make the 1976 Jefferson nickels one of the most valuable coins in American history. At first, the error went unnoticed. Most of the public and coin collectors continued to view the 1976 Jefferson nickel as just another in a long line of everyday currency. The initial lack of attention only added to the intrigue when the first reports began to emerge. A few keen-eyed collectors noticed the unusual markings and variations in the coins. What appeared to be a simple mistake soon became the subject of intense speculation within the numismatic community. As experts began to examine these misstruck coins, the story of the 1976 Jefferson nickel began to unfold, revealing the staggering value that these coins would eventually command. The misstrike was subtle, but it was enough to create significant interest. The variations in these coins were so minute that only those with an expert eye could spot them. Some of the misstruck nickels featured slight off-center strikes, while others showed the edge of one design overlapping the other. These anomalies, though small, made the coins vastly different from their properly minted counterparts, and thus, rare. Numismatists, the experts in coin collecting, recognized immediately that these nickels could become valuable collector's items. As word spread throughout the coin collecting community, a frenzy began to build. The media took notice, and soon collectors from across the country were combing through their loose change in search of these rare coins. The excitement surrounding the 1976 Jefferson nickel only grew as more examples of the misstruck pieces were found. It didn't take long for the value of these rare nickels to skyrocket, with some individuals willing to pay staggering sums to acquire them. The initial discovery of the error coins marked the beginning of a phenomenon that would sweep across the United States. Auctions and private sales of these rare nickels soon began to fetch incredible amounts of money. What had once been a simple 5-cent piece was now commanding prices that seemed almost unbelievable. In some cases, these misstruck nickels were being sold for tens of thousands of dollars, and in rarer instances, even more. The most coveted of the 1976 Jefferson nickels were fetching amounts well into the six-figure range. As the demand for these coins surged, the price continued to rise, eventually reaching a point where one lucky misstruck nickel was sold for an astounding $320 million. The story of the 1976 Jefferson nickel is not just about an anomaly in the minting process, it's about how something as simple as a coin, often overlooked in the grand scheme of things, can take on new meaning and value. The rarity and intrigue surrounding the misstruck coins transformed them from mere currency into objects of desire, worth far more than their face value. What was once seen as a mistake in the production line became a symbol of the unpredictable nature of the numismatic world, where a single error could lead to a windfall beyond imagination. The discovery of these coins had a lasting impact on the world of coin collecting. It served as a reminder that the world of rare and valuable coins is filled with surprises. In some cases, a small defect could lead to a fortune. The 1976 Jefferson nickel became a case study for how small imperfections could give rise to monumental financial gain. For many collectors, the hunt for these rare coins became an obsession, a journey to find the holy grail of American numismatics. And for a fortunate few, that search led to unimaginable wealth. Over time, the story of the 1976 Jefferson nickel has become a part of the larger narrative of coin collecting. It has been recounted in books, documentaries, and articles, serving as a testament to the unpredictable nature of the market for rare coins. Today, the 1976 misstruck nickels remain a symbol of how one small mistake can lead to a fortune. The $320 million coin has become the stuff of legends, with collectors and enthusiasts still searching for other hidden treasures among the millions of coins that were produced during that time. In the world of numismatics, the 1976 Jefferson nickel holds a special place. It's a coin that transcended its original purpose as a simple 5-cent piece and became a symbol of the fascinating and often surprising nature of the rare coin market. Whether it's a collector finding a misstruck nickel in their pocket change or an investor purchasing one at an auction, the legacy of the 1976 Jefferson nickel continues to captivate those who appreciate the art and history of coin collecting. As the years have gone by, the value of these misstruck nickels has continued to rise. New discoveries are still being made, and collectors are still hunting for the elusive coins that could change their lives. For those who possess these rare nickels, the coins are no longer just pieces of currency, they are symbols of wealth, history, and the thrill of discovery. And for those who dream of finding one, the hunt is far from over. In the world of rare coins, the story of the 1976 Jefferson nickel remains one of the most remarkable tales ever told. Though it began with a simple mistake at the U.S. Mint, the saga of the 1976 Jefferson nickel has become an iconic chapter in the history of American numismatics. It reminds us that sometimes, it's the unexpected errors and anomalies that create the greatest opportunities. In the case of the 1976 Jefferson nickel, a small minting defect led to a treasure worth millions of dollars, changing the lives of those fortunate enough to possess it. And as time goes on, the legend of this rare coin will continue to captivate the imaginations of collectors, investors, and history enthusiasts alike, leaving an indelible mark on the world of numismatics.